Hello everybody, welcome to another Drown City spoiler roundup with me, Justin, and Eric, and we're here to just look at the cards and talk about the cards and see what has been spoiled since our last video. Of note, we are recording this on December 16th, so by the time this video comes out, there will be more spoilers, including our own spoilers, which we are allowed to talk about in this video because this video will come out after that.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about YouTube.
I was partitioning my brain very carefully in this moment.
It is kind of like a superpower that comes with content creation, where I'm like able to like tell, hey, this is coming out on this day, so this is out, and then Bryn and Travis are just like, what do you mean it's Christmas? All right. So as always, we'll talk about the cards. Throw it to Eric. I will add some thoughts. I tried to keep my, like last time, my thoughts on these cards to a minimum because I enjoy talking with you for the first time here. So yeah, let's dive in with our first one, which is the Luger Po8. This is a 2-cost item weapon firearm illicit that takes up a hand slot in the rogue class. It uses 2 ammo. As a lightning bolt, you can exhaust the Luger and spend 1 ammo to fight. You get +1 fist for this attack. As an action, you can also spend 1 resource, replenish all ammo on Luger Po8, and ready it.
I was really impressed with this card until I realized it was +1 fight, not +1 damage. I still think this is good. I would still run it.
Yep.
But I do think it's incredibly well balanced for the fact that it does not do +1 damage.
Yes. I think that's a very accurate observation, 100%.
Yeah, this is the type of gun I think I would put in my deck and I would plan to replace.
Yeah.
It's very consistent. I really like it. It's knowing that I can talk about locked and loaded. It looks like a very fun card that you don't necessarily need a locked and loaded for. It kind of replaces that itself.
Yeah.
But without the +1 damage, I can't see myself keeping this in a deck forever.
So this card's very interesting, and I'm curious to see how it evolves over time as we get more play with it. But I actually think this card, if you're not going to like a big gun that requires 2 hands, I actually think it's viable all the way to the final scenario. And the reason for that is because it does not take an action to fight with it. So it's not actually you don't actually care about the damage, right?
You're right. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's a little bit funky. It's a little bit funky, isn't it? Yeah.
That means you can get 4 attacks in a round.
Yes, you can get 4 attacks in a round. Yeah.
Or do other things and then get an attack in.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
So, like, but I have to see how it goes in the long term, right? Because I'm curious to see how viable it actually is. Like, do you really want 2 weapons? The boring thing to do is, I show this card, actually I was talking about this card with Bryn and Travis, and Bryn was like, it's really cool because you can like ammo cards that care about spending ammo off cards, because there's a bunch of things that like spend an ammo off a gun, but generally your ammo isn't worth spending unless it's killing something. This makes that viable. But then Travis is like, yeah, but what if you just do it with Tony Morgan, where he has a gun in one hand and a switchblade in another, and you just become like even more efficient at killing, right? So I'm curious to see, like, I think this like testless attacks is a very powerful and potentially dangerous thing, but I think I need to see it in practice.
That's fair.
Yeah. Tony Morgan, he's the killing machine. He kills like nobody else. So like he's already like he takes there's a lot of cards in the rogue class, because you haven't played rogue that much.
No, I haven't.
A lot of rogue cards are designed for 3 fist. All the investigators have 3 fist. Tony has 5. So he changes all those cards and just becomes more efficient with them. Switchblade, it gives you +2. If you succeed by 2, you deal 2 damage. It's a fast 1-cost weapon, right? No ammo, you just stab. So with Tony, he can essentially deal, 6, 7 damage. Actually, he can deal 9 damage because he also gets an extra action to attack each round, pretty much.
Okay, that's wild. I really want to play Tony with a Luger and a switchblade.
So like, it's one of those things. Throw in a garrote wire, and then he can do it. He can attack for 10. It's crazy, but it is kind of one of those things where I think this card does a good job of fitting the whole of the Dreamer and like the try-hard, right? And I'm very curious to see how it evolves. I do want to play this card, though. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, the fast attack is so good.
Yeah, and while we haven't had Michael McGlenn spoiled at the time of us recording this video, he has something to do with ammo and firearms, so I think he's going to synergize with this really well as well.
Okay.
All right, sound support. This is a 2-cost, 3 experience specialist card, which means that only assistants, medics, and wardens can take it. It's a talent, soaks for 2 and 2, limit 1 per investigator. Sound support may be assigned damage and/or horror dealt to other investigators at your location. As a reaction, when your turn begins, heal 1 damage or 1 horror from sound support.
Wow, they got tired of us killing the medical student and really gave her an upgrade, huh?
It's just like, It kind of is, huh?
I think this is an incredible card.
Mm-hmm.
I think for 3 experience, I would absolutely run this in any deck that worried about multiple allies. And it's a talent, right?
Yeah. Talents, so notably talents, you can't really tutor them. There's no great way to do it outside of the rogue class. And because it doesn't actually... maybe sign. It only takes the damage for investigator. So like a beat cop can't put the damage on this. So that does rein it in a little bit.
Oh, and it's only to other investigators at your location. So it also isn't for you.
No, you can put it on yourself because it's an asset you control. So you can also put your own stuff on it.
I do kind of like this card then.
I mean, I think that it's. We're gonna do a video. I don't want to talk too much about the specialist cards themselves until I see everything in the set to talk about them. But I'm curious to see like kind of the overlap of these 3 traits that play it, because like all the specialist cards seem kind of focused to be okay, but none of them are like really super great, and I think that's probably good for like future design considerations. However, with this card, I do think that the game kills you not by burst damage. It does it occasionally, but the game most often kills you from drip damage, right? Like poking you to death.
Yeah.
And having a way to counter poke is how you win this game easier, I think.
I agree.
Yeah. So like being able to just have this in play and just make it so that nobody dies is probably pretty good for 3 experience. Like,
yeah, that's kind of what it's specifically that last bit where it's when your turn begins, heal 1 damage or 1 horror from sound support, where I'm just like, so every turn I'm not dying. Every turn I'm not getting hit.
Yeah.
I'm healing a little bit.
Yeah, and it's a curious card too, because at higher player counts, the damage and horror are going to outpace what this card can do.
Yeah.
Right? But
True, I've only ever played the 2-player version.
But at a higher player counts as well, people will generally have their own ways of surviving some of their damage, because no one's going to just rely on someone else to get there.
Yeah.
This basically allows you to slow down that process, which might be enough, right? Like, on 4-player, you might not be able to keep up. It might be enough to like add enough padding so that you'll win the game without risk when the time comes.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how this one goes. Notably, a little bit of a bummer, but also probably for the better. Carolyn Fern and Vincent Lee do not proc their abilities off of this, because this is not an investigator or an ally. So that is unfortunate, but probably realistically for the better, because I am of the belief that auto includes are like the death of deck building.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Soul Ring.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Like EDH is like, there's like 12 auto includes now, and then you're like, oh, I get like 26 cards for my deck.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Next one here, we got Deliverance. This is a 0-cost, 3 experience mystic event. It's a spirit. Fast. Play when the draw and counter card step of the Mythos phase would begin. You draw each encounter card that would normally be drawn this Mythos phase. Cards drawn during this Mythos phase cannot be canceled, and the first card drawn gains Surge. Skip the draw and counter card step of the next Mythos phase max twice per game.
So, you are drawing each encounter card.
Yeah.
So you're taking the soak.
Yes.
And then after it kills you, everybody next round just gets to skip a Mythos phase.
Yes, yeah. Alternatively as well, if you survive it, you basically are doing it. So like in a 2-player game, let's talk about in the perspective of how you and I play.
Yeah.
Let's say I would draw 3 encounter cards because the first one gains Surge.
Yeah.
But then next turn, we don't draw any.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm drawing 3 now. We're drawing basically 1 less encounter card as a group around the table.
But we're also taking heat off a player who might be in an injured position or potentially an entire team.
Yep.
So I think this card, ironically, in a martyr-style situation, gets better the more players you have.
100%, yeah.
Because you just die.
Yes.
You just tank
you just like, and this isn't the Mystic class, it's Mystic 3, so like your main Mystic or Spirit Splash, which I'm pretty sure is just Kelvin Wright, who gets better the more damage and horror he has on him.
Yeah.
You have a lot of mitigation or a lot of protections for the Mythos phase. And I mean, like, it's exactly that, right? Like you said, where it takes the heat off you, and then not drawing a Mythos card is, like, for the whole next phase, is going to be really good.
Yeah.
And you don't have to play this unless you want to.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, if the time isn't right, just don't play it yet.
Yeah.
And if the time is right, play it.
I think that this is an incredibly strong card. I really like it. I would 100% run it.
Yeah.
But it is an incredibly risky card. I would say the biggest complaint I have about this card is her pants.
Her pants, yeah.
Yeah, in the art.
Yeah. Well, what's wrong with them?
I don't like Jollopers.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I think a few things too. I would play this at 2 players.
Yeah.
Just because, people say it's easy to play this in 4 players because you are skipping more cards. But like my thought process, I mean, I'd play this in 4 players too. Don't get me wrong. But my thought process in 4 players, you have more players who are able to get positive tempo on the game.
Yeah.
In 2 players, if you're faltering a little bit, it's a lot harder to get out of that hole. So like skipping an entire Mythos phase in 2 players is pretty powerful as well.
Yeah.
So I would definitely play it in 2 players, but I'd obviously only play it in a deck where I can handle the Mythos cards.
Yeah.
Which is, if you're me, easy. I'm sure those were sunglasses. Yeah!
No, I love this card.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Do you know what card I immediately want to combine this with that would be a terrible idea?
Delta Deep?
No, the Homunculus.
Oh, yeah.
Just bomb yourself to death and then take on the Homunculus.
And just see what happens. That would be pretty funny.
Yeah.
I know we're definitely going to do a run where we try to turn everyone into the Homunculus. I think that would be a very fun time. All right, next one we got here is the Bidden Sutra.
Ooh.
This is a 2-cost, 2 experience specialist card. Means it can be played by Blessed, Cursor, and Sorcerers only. It's an item tome, Blessed Curse, takes up a hand slot. You get +1 skill value while resolving spell events. And as a reaction, during a skill test on a spell event, take up to 3 horror. For each horror taken, reveal an additional chaos token for this test. Choose one of the real tokens to resolve and ignore the rest.
Okay, this is a lot of fun as a card. I think the +1 skill value while resolving spell events already makes it good.
Yep.
Like I would pay 2 to have that in a spell heavy card.
Yeah.
And then the gravy on that of just taking 3 horror when you're in a good position to do it.
Yep.
And just being like, I really can't fail this. I really want to just push this is good.
And realistically, you wouldn't even need to do 3 horror for that. You could just do 1 horror, choose grab 2 and look at 1.
Yeah.
Right? There's a card in the core set called Grotesque Statue, which basically lets you exhaust to look at more tokens and choose some to resolve. And it's not really played as much anymore because there's better options, but also because all it does is it gives you more tokens, right? This gives you more tokens while also giving you +1 skill value, so there's something already added onto that, right?
Now, here's a weird question.
Yes.
So this gets crazy, and I need to check these rules. Let's say you, during a skill test, because it's also a cursed card, and I've noticed that, blessed and cursed. During a skill test on a spell event, take up to 3 horror. For each horror taken, reveal an additional chaos token. Choose one of the revealed tokens to resolve and ignore the test. So let's say I pull an auto-fail and a curse. I choose the curse, put the auto-fail back in the deck. Because the curse says pull another card, can I either A, proc it again, or B, does that mean that I technically turn curses and blesses into possibilities of further ignoring the auto-fail, the tome, things like that? Because if I pull a whole bunch of tokens and I hate all of them, but I have a curse or a bless, I just take that one, throw it all back in the deck, and then get another draw.
So this is a great question, and there's going to be a few... I have to go a bit deep on the rules to get there.
Okay.
And also I have to talk about this card for a second, because technically the formatting of this card doesn't actually make sense with the rules.
Okay, excellent.
So to answer your question of when does it trigger, that I do not know the correct answer to. If I would do this, it would be whenever you're about to reveal a token, you can take horror to do so. So let's go back to your starting thing about revealing 2 tokens, 1 cursed, 1 auto-fail. You ignore the auto-fail. Notably, when you do that, it does not go back into the bag. Yeah. So that's a little thing right there. But yes, you would then draw another token with your curse. And because, as written, this thing does not have a timing window that works, or it doesn't exhaust, I believe you can do it then for those next tokens. So you can try to fish for curse tokens with this. At the cost of horror, which isn't easy, right? But you could do that. Yeah.
But that does mean that if you put a bunch of curse tokens or a bunch of blessed tokens in the deck and you're built for that, you can add at an incredibly important moment when you absolutely cannot afford to auto-fail, you draw those 2 tokens, knowing that you will not have to take the auto fail, no matter what.
And that's why things like Grotesque Statue are really good because of that.
I really like this card.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna get ratted.
Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, like I think it's gonna get errated because it doesn't have a timing window that actually works. But the whole ignoring tokens has actually been in the game for a long time for that sort of thing. So that's luckily a new effect. Yeah.
Okay.
But, being able to, as written right now in its nebulous state, stack the triggers is a very compelling change at the cost of horror.
Which is bad.
Yeah. So that's why I think like when which
is why I'm going to pair it with the medic.
Yes. Yeah.
And just every turn.
And I mean, like that's actually kind of why the specialist cards are working better than intended, than people are giving them credit for, because there's a lot of things that are closed off by making these specialist cards. While yes, a lot of them do feel neutral plus, there's a reason that neutral plus still works as a gating mechanism.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see on the timing window if there's some sort of clarification on that. Because there's a big difference between when you would reveal tokens or at the start of a skill test. Like, that changes so much about that. But this is just during a skill test, which at any point is like, it's just like, ever.
Well, yeah, and at that point, never ever take the 3 horror.
Yeah.
Always take 1 horror.
Yes.
Reveal.
No, exactly.
And if you don't like it.
That's why, like, it's one of those things that...
Combo curse.
Yeah, like, it's a little bit fricked up. But I think the intention of the card is good. I think we just need a clarification on when you can do it. My gut says, especially with the 3 horror, it's when a skill test begins.
Yeah.
Right? And that's also kind of like why it's a reaction, I think. But because it's not during, not when you were... I don't care.
I still like it.
Honestly, I think it's playable too, which is kind of... I'm of the opinion that if a card has a home in a deck and it's not like super weak or super strong, it's probably better for the game than it was at the inverse. But
yeah,
what do I know? I'm just a dummy. All right, next one here, we got Good Weather. I like this card a lot. This is a 1-cost, 2 experience survivor card. It's a myriad, it's fast. Play after the investigation phase begins, group 1 limit in play. Put Good Weather into play next to the agenda deck and choose a skill. While this card is in play, each investigator gets +2 to the chosen skill. And then force when the investigation phase begins, you discard Good Weather.
Holy cow. This is a really good card. I dig it. I dig that it's myriad. I dig that it's fast. I dig that it's +2 to a chosen skill.
Yeah.
I like everything about this card.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything bad about this card.
I don't think there's anything bad about the card either. I mean, you know what's bad? It's not 0 XP and free and maybe like gives me cards when I play it too.
Yeah, it's not an auto. It's It's also not neutral, so I can just play it in every deck.
Yeah.
+2.
+2. +2 is a lot
for an entire
round. So it goes into the Mythos phase too.
Yeah.
And enemy phase if you trigger any attacks in the enemy phase. This is going to be... so this card's a little bit strange. Because to me, when I see this card, I think of 2 things. This is the boss killer or the investigate the victory location killer.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, all right, everyone, there's no enemies. You're fucking investigating this turn, right? Mm-hmm. I just had a panic. I was like, did I swear in the FFG video? No, we're good. I did not. I'm allowed to swear in this video. This one I can swear in. But like, that's really good. But the weird thing is because it costs 2 experience, you have to get some victory before you can take advantage of it.
Which, to be fair, yes.
However,
I also don't think I
exists.
Yeah, I also don't think I would run 3 of them.
I would in a heartbeat.
Oh, fair. I would run at least 2, is my argument.
Yeah. I think that's fair, too. I think it kind of depends on, like...
Your deck size.
What your deck's doing, everyone at the table, how many players you have, right? It becomes harder to include. I think this card gets better. It's easier to see the value from it when you have more players, right?
The only reason I would say I might not play 3 of them is because that's 6 experience.
No, that's not how Myriad works. I always love these new lessons that teach you. When you buy an experience card with Myriad, you can include up to 3 copies. So it's 2 experience for 3. You get all of them. You get all your bang for your buck at once.
I'd run all 3. I'd run all 3 every day.
Yeah. So like that, that does change. So there's a card in a Rogue called Easy Mark. It's 1 experience, and it's just a kick-ass economy card, and it's just so easy to put in your deck because you get 3 copies for 1.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to sit a very, very similar spot. I think that it's a support card. I would run it more in a deck that is like flexing. I wouldn't just run it in any survivor deck, but like if I was like a flex survivor, it's really good.
Counterpoint, though, as a survivor, is there any point where you wouldn't want +2 to a chosen skill?
I agree with that point. I think that's good. The counterpoint to the counterpoint is just that there's so many good cards that there might be things that are better in my deck than that.
That's fair.
But like if there's a team that's like you just want to get the value, I think it's very easy to just put this in your deck. I think it's a very powerful card.
Dang, Barnaby.
Yeah, George Barnaby on his goddamn boat. There's a joke where it's just like, we need more boat pictures. Because there's now 3 pictures of Barnaby on his boat. We need more boat pictures.
I mean, they're all good cards.
They are, yeah.
I especially like the one where he's crying.
Yes, that one's really good too. All right, next one here, we got Gloria Goldberg. So Gloria Goldberg's been in the game for a very long time as her book versions, but we finally have her official cards. So,
has she been fixed to be less powerful?
It's a complicated answer. I think that she has there's actually now her weakness counterplays against her. So you need to actually like have a plan for it. It's not just like I ignore it. So, same ability as last time. You choose the Investigator order. When you look at one or more counter cards, look at additional. Just choose one non-elite. Either discard it, put it on top of the counter deck, or place it face down beneath her. And she gets 3 copies of Psychic Sensitivity and 3 copies of Prophecy of the End. Notably, Prophecy of the End goes into the Mythos deck.
Oh, ho, ho.
So her Psychic Sensitivity is fast. Play when an Investigator at any location draws an encounter card. If there's a copy of the encounter card beneath Gloria Goldberg, cancel all that card's effects and discard both copies of it, then draw 1 card. So notably, works really well with Mythos cards, but also with her signature weakness, which is Prophecy of the End. Surge. So if anyone draws it, it just gets discarded. Notably, Surge is one of those cards' effects, so you again use Psychic Sensitivity to discard it if you already have one underneath her. So there is some counterplay in her kit, but she also has a lot of, like, it is scary once we get to the bottom of Prophecy of the End. Forced. If Gloria Goldberg uses a reaction ability and this treachery is among the looked at cards, it must be chosen and placed beneath her. If you cannot discard a non-weakness card beneath her first. This is actually when I realized she has a limit of 3 cards beneath her. I did not realize that because I never put cards beneath her.
Yeah.
The other version. Then, if there are 3 copies of this treachery beneath her, she is defeated and suffers 1 mental trauma.
Okay, that's sick.
It is pretty cool.
That is sick.
Yeah.
Okay. First criticism. She is older in one picture than she is in the other. And I don't fully understand.
That was the first thing I said, okay? So, like, this is her book art.
Yeah.
And, Gloria Goldberg has never been called Grandma before Arkham the card game. But then this one came out, and she actually, by the way, I flipped right to her page. Am I so fucking good at this, or what?
Are you so Gloria?
But, like, this is where she got the term Grandma, right? Because she looks old, right? But that's her official art from Elder Torah that she's had forever. She doesn't look that old. And then we got Psychic Sensitivity, and I'm like, damn, she's old.
Yeah, like, what's happening here? Like, don't get me wrong, I understand that, like, we nowadays have, like, photo editing and manipulation, but what's she doing?
Yeah. So my thought process is that they've kind of just changed her character to be older, but because they always use the Eldritch Horror art, it doesn't gel anymore.
Oh, no.
Notably, she is still pretty old in the Gloria Goldberg art on her card. She's still old. She's probably like late 50s, early 60s. But that woman on Psychic Sensitivity looked like my 85-year-old to 90-year-old grandma.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
It honestly was the first thing I said when I saw the card too, so you're in good company.
I think that Prophecy of the End is... How do I put this? How do I put this politely to the audience? If you die to this version of Prophecy of the End, you earned it.
Yes.
There is no reason why you should die to this Prophecy of the End.
Yeah.
Wait for one to be revealed.
And then go nuts.
And then go nuts. Yeah. And then when the deck gets reshuffled, wait.
Yeah. Or alternatively, go nuts until you have 2, and then wait for someone to resolve, and then hold your Psychic Sensitivities.
Yeah.
Alternatively, there's also a card called Fool Me Once in the Guardian class where you can basically remove a treachery from the deck. And Mythos weakness cards, when drawn, are treacheries.
Yeah.
Right? And this is already a treachery printed anyway. I do think that I would love it if they curbed that a little bit. If there was just, you cannot interact with weaknesses, like that kind of thing. But I do think that she hasn't seen a significant downgrade in her strength.
No.
But I think the design is really good. And I think that there is now a risk in using her ability, which is better than it was before because there was no risk before.
And I don't disagree with you at all. I just think that, yeah, Prophets of the End. Okay, no, you know what? I guess it forces you to play a little bit around it, which is good, but it's not especially strong to me.
Yeah.
The only time I could see this really screwing you up is if all three are somehow stacked at the top of the deck on your first round.
Well, luckily, you actually only choose a card, so even if that happens, only one of them resolves.
Okay, good, because otherwise I'm just like...
Yeah. One thing I do like, though, that is a little bit understated is that...
Except the King in Yellow is looking real fly in that picture.
That is pretty sick. But it kind of has like a Mandy thing where Mandy's weakness cancels the search. And while this doesn't actually cancel the search, it does essentially like cancel your look at in a way.
Yeah.
You lose the value you get out of it. So you basically have like two duds that are going to slow you down a little bit.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I think is also notable is that she has 3 copies of Psychic Sensitivity, which means that... her opening mulligan is going to get slightly worse because I would not want to keep these cards in my opening hand. They're abysmal in the start of the game. So like that is like a notable thing as well. And also, Prophecy of the End is going to be very swingy because the scenarios change how much the encounter deck gets shuffled into, like the discard gets shuffled in.
Yeah.
Right. Early campaigns, they did it a lot. Like in Forgotten Age, in the first scenario, it can happen like 4 times, and that can really screw up your math too. But I think the big thing for me is that now she has a weakness that is actually, like, her other weakness, I just basically drew it and then shuffled it back into my deck. Like, it did nothing with my play style. With this one, it at least, like, does something. I would love it if it was, like, take 1 Horror Surge, just to make it, like, a little bit... But I understand that kind of then throws off the balance of, like, other investigators who are now suddenly taking 1 Horror, right? But
I will also say, though, Psychic Sensitivity also has some great icons.
Yes, it does. Yeah, 2 Brain and a Wild is very nice.
2 Brain and a Wild is huge.
So, like, use it to, like, help your other teammates when they're getting a little bit scared. You know, if they're, like, seeing a rotting remains. I'm curious to see how she changes. I still think she is going to be very strong just because of the nature of her ability. And the ability of counterplay through Fool Me Once, while... I think is fine for right now. I'm not a big believer in cards being able to interact with weaknesses unless the card specifically says weakness on it. But that's my own bias, so I'm not going to put that on anyone else. All right.
I will.
I think we have a few more cards here. We got Crowbar. This is a 3-cost asset in the Guardian class. It's an item, weapon, tool, melee. It takes up a hand slot. As an action, you can exhaust Crowbar, investigate. This investigate attempt uses fist instead of book. As an action, you can exhaust Crowbar, fight. You get +2 fist for this attack.
I love this card. I love this card. It turns so many people into flexes when they're not flexes. And it's just so silly. Everything about this card is silly, and I like it. I don't even care about the second ability. I just want it for fist instead of book.
Yes, yeah.
I love this.
I mean, I think so too. Get it. Because in 2 players, I think this card is super viable.
Yeah.
Right? In solo, I think this card is also super viable.
Yeah.
Right? I think in 3 or 4 players, this card is less viable, right? Just because, like...
I mean, sure, but I'm still going to run it.
Yeah, it's going to...
Well, for 3... Okay, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, the audience, who poo-poos this card. For $3, you get an item, weapon, tool. Easy to find.
Yeah.
Easy for you to
find, yeah.
Easy for you to find.
Yeah.
You can use it for a fight if you really need to. It's a one-handed +2 fist weapon. Not great, but it's there. Most importantly, if there is ever a time when you are the big fist, low book person, and you need that one extra clue, even in a 4-player game, and things are going to hell, you're going to pick it up.
Yeah.
You're going to pick up the clue.
Yeah.
Because, okay, confirm this for me.
Yeah.
But this investigate attempt uses fist instead of book. What does that mean for skill cards I apply?
Book. You can't do book, but you can do fist card icons, yeah.
So this turns my whole fighty deck into a super investigate deck.
Yeah. Once per turn.
Once per turn, which, when I need it, that's all I want. I just want to pick up one. If I have one turn where I'm not beating things to death and I got to do something else, being able to beat clues out of a shroud is it's so good.
And I think that's kind of the context of it too, right? Where it's just like, there's so many times I've played or I've seen play, and as a guardian without when a monster doesn't show up, you're like, I guess I'll just like draw cards or gain resources, right? But then you look at it and you're like, you have like, oh, I have 8 cards in hand, and I have like 7 resources. I don't need either of these things. Do I play this card, but I have it all set up? So like, unless you have like a big asset-heavy deck, most often you're kind of just like in that position, just being like, I draw a card and I just have this full hand of cards, right? This allows you to at least take one of those draw actions into grab clues.
Yeah.
Right? And it's kind of like one of those things where Pax, another content creator, said something really funny in our Discord, which was it changes the fighter turn without enemies from draw to investigate draw. But the reality is that even though that is a funny statement and like an actual kind of like great tongue-in-cheek joke for Guardian's state, that's going to help you win the game. I don't know, player turns quicker, 2 player turns quicker, depending on the number of time it happens, right?
Well, and there's so many cards too. Like I'm thinking of, I think it's Overpower is 2 Fist.
Yep.
Where you can also then draw a card off of it.
Yep.
I'm gonna use that on a high shroud location. The idea of the fighter just being like, yeah, I'll 7 shroud this 4 shroud. I'll 7 fight this 4 shroud location, pick up a clue, and draw a card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. I do understand the. But I think as well the valuation of cards a lot of time change depending on the number of players. But I think like in 3-player flex or 2 players, this card is really easy to include. And I think we'll get a lot done.
Hey, 4-player teams, never include me because I'm putting this in and I'm coming for you.
But with that said, I do think 4 players can still make it work, right? But I just think like, especially unless you're doing like 2-handed stuff or like you're using 2 weapons, I think Crowbar is a very easy thing to slot in.
Yeah.
But I think it's like a pretty good level 0 card. I think it's pretty.
Yeah, it's also level 0.
Yeah.
I like this card.
I would actually love an experienced version.
Yes.
That
does more damage.
That does more damage, or like I don't know. I would love to see a version of it that also like gets. I think actually I would love a version that keeps the clue, so that keeps the damage at 1, but the clues become higher. Ooh. Right? Like if you meet a certain threshold.
Yeah.
Right? I think Guardians could really benefit from that. Mark Harrigan is also such a good flex investigator that he's very easy to do gun in one hand, crowbar in the other, and he'll be like really efficient at flexing. It's going to be crazy. Also, I have to, because a lot of people when they saw this card, they were like, "Why can't I use this on Lock Door, an encounter card that you can like use to break the door down?" And I think that's a very funny joke. But trust me, I played a lot of Arkham Horror 2nd Edition, and you did too. Maniacs dropping an axe when they die and fire vampires getting weaker in the rain is not... It's flavorfully really fun, but mechanically a nightmare.
It's really not good.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things that Travis and Bryn always joke about too, just like adding all these extra things, flavorfully really cool. But I understand a lot of people are saying that in jest anyway, but
yeah.
I just have to... I agree, but at the same time, I think of that damn Maniac with that axe, and I'm like, okay, guess I just get an axe from this.
Yeah.
All right. Next one we got here is Spiritual Echo. This is a 1-cost, 2-experience event in the Mystic class. It's a ritual. Attach your location limit 1 per location. As a reaction, after you activate an action or lightning bolt ability on a spell or ritual asset, perform that ability again at attached location as if you were there, ignoring that asset action cost, if any. You may trigger this ability from any location. Return Spiritual Echo to your hand.
Insanely good. I really like this. Mostly I'm thinking about... when you use ritual or spell assets as a way to pick up additional clues from other locations. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it returns to your hand, incredibly strong. I personally really like this card.
So, I am intrigued by this card. But the issue that I have, that I've been trying to solve ever since I've seen it, is that it actually is not action positive.
No, it's
action
not.
Neutral, which is very interesting. So then it got me thinking, is this card actually better if you're not triggering actions with it? Right? If you're doing lightning bolts with it. Mm-hmm. So you're basically doubling on effects that are, you only can trigger once a turn, twice a turn, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing I'm thinking of, is this a plant for the future where we get this investigator who can like trigger a ritual asset as an action once per turn?
I could see that.
I honestly would love this motherfucker as an investigator. He seems so cool.
Yeah.
I want him as an investigator. Like, I would love it, like, because we have Luke Robinson, who is like in 2 places at once. But I would love like the spirit fighter that you played in Pathfinder or D&D, right? Where like you had like the spirit that you could transfer into.
Oh yeah, the Echo Knight.
The Echo Knight, yeah. Like, I'm wondering if like this is a reference to that, and maybe this guy is a future Echo Knight in the future. Do I think something like that is probably going to be too strong? Yes. But or too broken? Yes. Like it'll actually break the rules of the game. But the other thing I'm thinking about is Marie Lambeau, where if there's a Doom on a card she controls, she can play a spell. She can trigger a spell once per turn for free, right? Well, you're not really getting like, let's do the math. Like Marie plays it. And then she triggers it for free and she gets another one. So she's, once again, not really getting action positive.
No, she's one action positive in that situation.
Because she plays it. But even, like, I guess...
Because she wanted to do the free action anyways.
Yeah.
So she's still one action positive, assuming that casting a spell twice is going to help you.
Yes, and that's the thing, too. I mean, and it's also, like, it's like, use this on... It doesn't reduce the costs, right? So, like... it reduces the action cost, right? Like, ignore that, but it doesn't, like, you still have to spend the charge.
Yeah.
I think if you didn't have to spend the charge, this card would be a lot more viable, right?
I mean, okay, I see what you're saying, but here's another argument. I think this Spiritual Echo gives all of your ritual or spell assets that are also events myriad. This lets me myriad every one-off spell or ritual in the game.
Well, notably, I can get behind that, but it doesn't actually work on events. It's only assets.
I thought there were. Oh yeah, it says asset. Okay,
but it is kind of those.
You're right.
I'm seeing what you're trying to like. I'm trying because I think you're kind of in theory. I don't know. This kind of like it returning to its hand is also really interesting. I don't know. I'm just looking at this card and I just feel like there's gonna be something that allows this to work. Like, maybe there's, like... I feel like this motherfucker right there in the art is going to show up in the game and he's going to be, like, some sort of ritual-focused investigator.
This is your red-gloved man, and I love it.
Yeah, I just think he is. His design... Okay, honestly, though, his design is too unique to just appear on this one card.
Yeah.
Right, like, maybe I'm just, like, tinfoil hat right now.
I love it.
But I've convinced myself in this video that this is going to be a future investigator.
Okay.
A future mystic investigator that's ritual-focused. Because if you could like trigger and like play a like a Marie Lambeau but rituals, this card would pop the fuck off. I don't know, but maybe I'm just crazy. I don't know.
Well, how many ritual assets are there?
There's a good number.
And are they good?
Yeah, most rituals. So rituals are very good because you can't tutor them, right? So that's kind of like generally.
But I'm still making my myriad case.
But I don't really know like. Like, we have Close the Circle, which unfortunately they also just kind of, like, pseudo-nerfed. Spend a chart. But the thing is, it's... Because you're only not paying its action cost. I feel like that's just the thing that's, like... I don't know, I feel like something happened and maybe they had to limit this. But I'm not giving up on it. I'm going to try it in Marie.
Oh, that's just a ritual, not a ritual asset.
It is a ritual asset.
Oh, okay.
But it has a Lightning Bolt, discard a copy of Mind's Eye from your hand. And you can do... But the thing is, like, lightning bolts are free. So, like, my thought on, like, it being a lightning bolt is something like, it's a 3 cost.
We're gonna find it. We're gonna find the card.
Scrying. But without paying its action cost. Like, again, as if you were there. I don't know. Scrying, which with Gloria? I don't know, I'm intrigued.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Yeah, as if you were there.
Yeah, so that's the real nice thing, too, is I think that's where the viability comes with Sixth Sense. You can put this on, like, a victory point location and just be like, I'm coming back to you later. Especially if you... So, like, let's just paint, like, a perfect world. Okay, let's just paint, like, a magic Christmas land if we can.
That's Christmas.
You have Sixth Sense 4, which is if you reveal a skull, tablet, cultist, or squid token, you get to choose another location up to 2 away, and you're also investigating there. You can discover a clue from each of them. Let's say you did that, and you hit the skull. You hit a symbol because your deck is built for symbol pulling, and you hit your location and and the location that Spiritual Echo was on. You got 2 clues.
Yeah.
You then gonna do the Spiritual Echo again, and you also draw a symbol, and you get 4 clues. Right? Is that worth it? And potentially, right? Potentially.
Yeah. See, that's yeah. I could see that.
Yeah. I think again, once this guy shows up, his name is like
change.
Ozymandias or something.
This tinfoil hat theory is getting wild. I need an iceberg of Justin tinfoil hat theories right now, and Ozymandias needs to be at the bottom.
So notably, I've never like ever contacted FFG for like reasons. I want to email them and be like, "Can you just please tell me if he's an investigator?" I don't need anything else.
I'm asking you one thing.
Yeah, is this, please? I just need to know. All right, let's keep this going before I go. So I think that Sixth Sense story, like that thing, I think can actually be
Fantasy Flight.
Yeah.
If you watch this video, please add this character to 2 more cards in an upcoming cycle and never make him an investigator.
No, don't do that. That's mean. Maybe I'll email the artist and see if they'll break. He's like, "Can you please break your NDA?" Was this character given a name? Was there a style guide? Like, I also think that if there's anything that lets you like play a ritual fast, like as soon as like or play like an event fast, this is going to go to the moon. I'm very curious about this card though, but I think right now there's just something missing, and that something is called Ozymandias.
Yes.
Last card of the day, we got Mortar and Pestle. This is a 2-cost asset in the Seeker class. It's item, tool, science. It uses 0 resources. Resources on Mortar and Pestle may be spent to pay for spell cards. As a reaction, if you discover 1 or more clues, exhaust Mortar and Pestle, place 1 resource on it from the token pool.
This is a good card. I like this card. This is good. This is good. I have no complaints.
No complaints.
2 cost. I love that it's called science. Not wrong.
Yeah, technically you can do like they did science at one point, like crushing herbs for medicine, not for pseudoscience.
Yeah, you want to be discovering clues. If you're a seeker who has spells, this is just good. This is just good. This is just a good card.
Yeah. Even if you're a mystic who has Seeker in there. So like Marie Lambeau again, she has a Seeker class. She has a Seeker splash. She's just going to be getting clues. I think a big thing about this card is it's very deck dependent, obviously. You're not just putting it in any deck. No. You need to have spell cards that you're playing with it. However, with that said, if you are playing spell cards, there's a reason that that Dr. Milan is pretty good, and half of that reason, well, actually probably like 40% of that reason is he gives you resources whenever you investigate. Passively getting value while winning the game is a good way to win the game more.
Yeah.
Right? There's also in the Seeker class, there's a lot of ways to cheat this into play. Daniel, a content creator I often do collaborations with, he said with Daisy, Daisy Walker can play level 2 spell events, specifically Read the Signs and Spectral Razor, that potentially can return to her hand, so she can like loop them. Notably as well, she has a lot of ways in Seeker to play it for free, like Old Book of Lore 3, which allows her to, with her ability, find it, put it into play for 2 less. There's Unearth the Ancients, which also lets you do it. There's a lot of ways to put into play earlier to get the value out of it quicker. And also it's slotless. Yeah. And I think just once again, I think that people potentially underestimate that getting a value while winning the game is just very good. It's like worth more than other forms of this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's better to win more than it is to get something when you are getting hurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it is kind of strange because in like Magic, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Right? Like in Magic, you like don't want to win more because like it's like, what do I do if I'm like, you want like a card that's like, what's the quadrant theory, right?
Yeah.
You need it like, it's good in like all points of the game. And Arkham kind of has that as well. Actually, that'd be a fun video. I'll talk maybe a quadrant theory in Arkham Horror. Because like, what's a card that's always good, right? Whenever you draw it.
Yeah.
In Arkham.
Is there?
There's got to be. I mean, it's most of the cards I put in my deck because whenever I draw it, I go, I love this card.
It's gambling. That's the answer, kids.
Yeah. But like this one's bad late, right? Like if you see it late, it's bad, right?
Absolutely.
But I think that's true for a lot of assets. There's also a card that just came out in Hemlock called Fine Tuning, where it's after you use a tool, after a tool exhausts, it readies.
Oh.
Right? So like that's a good way to get like positive on this.
Yeah.
Even quicker. But I do think that like, well, I don't think it's like super strong. I think it's going to be good in spell decks for sure.
I think, so in my opinion on this card, if you play it and you can get 2 charges used off of it, you're happy. I would pay $1 for a charge.
But this is a great question, though. Like, why not just other economy then? That's like the question, right? And I think that's a very fair question.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the answer to that is because your deck is better if this is your economy, right?
Yeah.
Because this is like economy that you can, like, I think if you're cheating into play too, which is very possible. That's why card costs like kind of have to be what they are now, right? Like, you'll notice that a lot of good Seeker cards at level 0 cost 2 resources because specifically Old Book of Lore reduces a lot of things, reduce cost by 2.
That's very smart.
So like it's like one of those things that you just see it innately in balance now. It's kind of just like is falling that way. Whether that's good or bad is a whole other discussion that I'm not really qualified to talk about. But now, honestly, my brain is now just I'm stuck in this quadrant theory thing.
I'm glad we did this at the end of the episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I'll definitely play this card. I want to try it in Daisy and I want to try it in Marie. Any Mystic Seeker. And Agatha, the new investigator, she's going to do some Seeker event stuff and also like some spell event stuff and maybe some spell asset stuff because it also can play for spell. I just can't shake the feeling that while there is a little bit of a down payment, the same is true for Dr. Milan, right? But if I investigate and I'm essentially getting 2 resources to do the thing that I want, 3 if I have 2 of these in play in Dr. Milan, like that's a lot of money that like you're going to get a lot of value of. I think also these cards are replaceable by higher end versions that do the same thing, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think the art's great though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very science.
Very science. Yeah, the science is a little bit.
No, I think you called it.
Yeah,
this is absolutely a mortar and pestle. This is a piece of technology. I agree.
It is. I mean, I guess science is kind of technology, right?
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Well,
technology is just the application of science.
Wow. Is this computer science?
Yes.
Am I science?
Yes.
Is Ozymandias science? No, he's a ritual. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this video. Eric and I mean, honestly, by the next time we record, we're gonna it's gonna be next week. There's gonna be a lot more spoilers, so we'll have more to talk about.
I'm so excited.
Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. In this batch, what are the cards that you're most excited about, and why is it good weather? Because George Barnaby's on a boat. We love him.
We do.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one, and as always, I don't know why I prayed there.
What if we one day got a picture of a homunculus on a boat?
That would be super sick. I'd be down for it.
I'm ready.
Be down for it, yeah.
Fantasy Flight, I'm going to email you and ask you just for one thing.
Yeah, please. Homunculus on a boat, maybe? Please?